Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, Dread of Bread. Hello to the people of YouTube. We've had a better, a better VOD than the weird one. But let's see what this one is. It's gonna be Dawnbringers. Dawnbringers. Oh shit.
Hammerhal, Aksha, and Hammerhal Gyra in Gyran. And they have had so many trials and tribulations over the
Well, there's no saving this one. This one's gonna get content ID claimed for sure.
course of this storyline. We've seen them rise and fall, have moments of triumph and moments of real tragedy. So what we've seen in Hammerhal Aksha, is the crusade heading out eastwards. They think they've found somewhere there that is viable, that they can defend, which is the ruins of an old city called Embergard. And it's kind of like a haunted place, really, and they had a lot of trouble with nasties in the basement, the night haunt that dwelt there, but they have now managed to claim that space, and Sinestra and the Cult of the Wheel have taken that place with conviction and faith.
Really don't like these models. I don't. I really don't like them. She just looks like she's really angry.
Now in Gyran, we've seen them thrash their way through jungles and forests, scabrous sprawl, swamplands, mangroves. They've basically had a horrible time of it, trying to get up north to found their own city called Verdigris. Verdigris is looking like maybe that's going to work out, but we'll see what happens over the course of Dawnbringer 6. Abraxia, the Spear of the Everchosen, she is the right-hand woman of Archaon
That is a woman, chat. I thought it was a man, but it's a woman.
himself, the Supreme Grand Marshal of Chaos, and she's part of the Varangard. The Varangard
I do like these models though. They're pretty cool.
are like elite Chaos Lords. Every one of them is
Oh my
Chaos
God.
Lord power.
I didn't realize the horses were all mutated and gross looking. I don't know how I didn't see that before. Alright.
She's fought her way up from the fighting pits of the Varanspire. Ever since she was a child, she's been really good with a spear, and she has no morals at all about who she kills and when she kills them, so she is a real fearsome character. The only catch here is that Archaon doesn't fully trust her and actually wants to test her. So he's given her the spear called Bolga, this magic spear, and although it mutates everything it touches,
I do like that art right there.
so all you need to do is scratch your enemy and then they devolve into a horrible spawn thing. It can also do that to the wielder if the wielder loses their concentration. That did happen once in Abraxia's history, and that's why she has those horns. It only took a momentary lapse of her concentration and she started to mutate. So with that spear, Archaon is testing Abraxia, provided she stays in control. So long as she does, things are peachy, but she cannot afford to fail. So we talked a bit about Abraxia right at the top end.
I do like this art. I really do. I highly doubt they would kill her off. So
Higher echelons of the Chaos power struggle. Right at the bottom there we have tribesmen, basic people like you and I who are trying to get by out in the wilderness, and the Dark Oath exemplify that.
alrighty. I like that. That's neat. Alright.
They make bargains with the Dark Powers to try and survive, and Gunnar Brand and his family are a great example of that.
Like that model. That's very cool. That model's cool in the background. That model's alright. There's probably a woman on a horse. I can't tell. That is an ugly face. I do like that. That's pretty cool. I would have liked more of a... Well, these guys are kind of supposed to be like Viking-ish. Would have been cooler if they had more of a Viking-ish theme to them.
So Gunnar Brand himself is not just a big fighter, he's very powerful in combat, but he's also kind of the brains of the operation. He's a very clever dude, and he doesn't really want to see his family slide into chaos. Neither does he want to particularly kowtow to Sigmar. He, like all Dark Oath, he's got a massive chip on his shoulder about the fact that Sigmar basically bailed on them, and they had to resort to these dark methods to survive. He's got his daughter Singri with him, a sort of expert horse archer. Tanari
Yep, that's who that was on the horse.
Tackblood is his rival, the War Queen. Now, unfortunately, it's not that simple if you're enthralled to chaos. He starts getting involved in the Archaon's grand plan and the pawns that are moving around the board, and some hidden forces that are lurking in the shadows that are also effectively using the Dark Oath as pawns. So running parallel to this story, we also see some old friends, Vandus Hammerhand.
So this guy here, I really like that model. I think that's pretty cool.
And
Or
Korgos
not model, but the art, I'm sorry.
Kol, the mighty lord of Khorne, his nemesis. Now these are characters we brought into play at the beginning of the Realmgate Wars, many years ago, 8-9 years ago now. It's gone from essentially a small vendetta into an all-consuming passion for Vandus Hammerhand. All he wants is to get his revenge on Kull. Kull killed his sons in a former life, way back when he was mortal, and he is definitely obsessing about it now. It's kind of bringing things off kilter and actually maybe splitting the crusade and splitting the loyalties of the people that should be united in the face of chaos to pursue his own agenda.
He may fall to chaos, chat. He may fall to Khorne. Blood for the blood god.
Now Korgos Kull, all he needs to turn into a demon prince is that last skull to cap his pyramid.
That's his model? Ugh, I don't like it. I don't like it, chat.
It's to, the real capstone to what he's been working on all these years. And so he has his own agenda, and it doesn't go the way you think it might. So I'm looking forward to people seeing how that story, that ancient rivalry, actually ends in Dawnbringers. So Dawnbringers is not only ending an era, the era of the Beast, where we've seen destruction in the driving seat. We see that come to an end in Dawnbringers, but we also see the beginning of a new era.
I do like these
there
models.
There are signs for those who are paying attention of what that might be and where that might lead. On a personal level as well. So Vandus is a good example of that. He is not his former self, and his journey, he's almost exemplary of what the Stormcast have to deal with as they die and are reforged and die and are reforged, and their souls pay the price over time. So where his journey leads is really interesting, and we'll open a new chapter of the story as a result of that. So one of the great things about the Dawnbringers
big bottles, nicely painted
series is we've seen people on the ground, boots on the ground story, but throughout that there have been little happenstances and agendas and clashes where a greater story is unfolding. And it's been done in secret, it's behind the scenes, because the people orchestrating that story, and I'm talking gods here and demigods, are not keen on showing their hand until the last minute. And it ends with this great climactic explosion of violence. Of course it does, it's Warhammer, and the Mortal Realms will never be the same again.
Alright, the Crusade reaches their crescendo.
So that was a fantastic video showing off Dawnbringers 6. Here with me is Phil. Thank you for joining me.
Let's see what we got.
So we've seen the Twin-Tailed Crusade set off from Hammerhall Akshar and Hammerhall Gyra. They faced an awful lot of trouble getting to where they are.
That's fair.
Can you sort of summarise what the Dawnbringer story has brought us so far?
Yeah, so we've seen two crusades, and by crusades, these are definitely the largest that the Sigmarite cities have put out yet. Statement of intent, really. Sigmar has to put his flag in the sand and say, everything's going fine, by the way, and we're definitely founding these cities. It's more of a morale and propaganda thing than anything else. But unfortunately, as is the way of Warhammer and the way of the Mortal Realms, it has not gone smoothly. We know that one city will rise and one city will fall, and that leads us into some new characters and some new adventures.
You mentioned new characters there. We've got Abraxia, the Spear of the Everchosen. Can you tell us a little bit about her backstory, because we've not seen her before?
We discussed a little bit about how she's the preeminent warlord of chaos and the leader of the...
They keep telling us the same thing over and over again about her spear and how it changed her.
Varangard, Archaon's right-hand woman. She grew up in the fighting pits of the Varanspire, the 8 Points. So this is a kind of a sub-realm where chaos rules. It's Archaon's seat of power. And she was born there, she grew up there, and she has had a very bloody history from day one, from being
So she's kind of like Bane. I was born in the dark.
An infant, really, all the way up to her current incarnation. She's had to strive to overcome all the chaos tyrants and rivals and would-be kings. And she's risen to the top. She really is that good, to the point that Archaon is testing her, essentially, and testing her as a general by giving her the most powerful stuff and the most elite troops. She better not fail.
We've seen the forces of destruction, the forces of order. This feels like a culmination, and now we're seeing sort of chaos stamp its mark on the Twin-Tailed Crusade. Can you give us a little hint as to what the plan is here?
Obviously, the forces of order have by no means overtaken the lands or conquered what they lost. Chaos is still very much in the driving seat in Age of Sigmar. The forces of Sigmar, the God King, are trying to strike back, and they've made some inroads and some beachheads, but 9/10 of the land is still in the forces of darkness, one way or another. So every time Sigmar tries to set something up, there's a Chaos force nearby waiting to knock it down. And we've seen various incarnations of that over the years. But this is a real precision strike. This is Archaon sending out his brightest and his best to make a counter statement to say, no, you don't get to found 2 new cities. I'm going to destroy those. Everything you set up, I'll knock down. So we're really seeing a battle effectively between Sigmar and Archaon here, but through his foremost general, through his champion. And she's a really interesting character.
So you've mentioned that the
But they really won't talk anything. They won't go really into depth about her, and then they like, maybe she'll live, maybe she'll die. They're not going to kill her off. They won't do that. They haven't killed off a character. They haven't killed off characters in a very, very long time. And even if they do get killed off, they bring them back, because it'd be kind of weird to bring out a new model and be like, oh, yep, she's dead. We're not going to sell this brand new model anymore. They do kill off old characters in Warhammer 40k when they don't refresh their models. Like poor Yurik, I believe his name was. Oh man, old laser eye. R.I.P.
forces of chaos have been knocking down everything that the forces of order have attempted to build. Now, in this book, there's mention of the Nexus Chaotica. Can you give us a little bit of information about what that is? Because I think that's relevant to this.
I love that thing. It's just so metal. Essentially, this is a kind of like a power siphon, a chaos engine, really. And where they place these things, much like the Dawnbringers are trying to put their Nexus siphons and their aquiliths and essentially drain the land of the magical force or employ the magical inherent force of the realms. The Chaos version is corrupting and twisting and bleeding the realms dry, and that's what we see in this form. So any wizard, any sorcerer, Chaos sorcerer near that can draw on the power from the Nexus Chaotica. It's like another sign that Chaos is striking back.
Well, that was fantastic. There's a lot to look forward to there. Thank you very much for joining me, Phil.
No problem.
And for everybody at home, there's some more fantastic reveals coming.
Alrighty, chat. Well, that's going to end that VOD there. And I will see the people over on YouTube later. Bye, people of YouTube.